What do you do if a home inspection reveals a problem? Most home inspections will reveal problems, and it's not meant to be a red flag or it's not meant to be a deal breaker. It's just meant to educate the buyer on this is what we've found, but we're also going to give them some options on what they can do to resolve that problem. Whether it's they bring in another contractor or somebody whose job that would be to fix that. It may be something that really isn't a problem for them. It may not faze them at all if they've got the background to be able to deal with it. Or it may be something where they decide, maybe this isn't the home, we can't overcome this concern. So we're just going to keep looking with our realtor for something that won't have this concern with it.
So what happens when we get a bad home inspection? Those are usually few and far between, but the bad home inspections are usually the ones that the homes haven't been taken care of very well. And so they've been kind of beat down over the years. But in all reality, it comes down to what the client can handle. If it's a contractor that's coming in to look at a house, or somebody who's a tradesperson who knows and is prepared for that, it becomes not a problem because they're very much capable of taking care of things. If it's somebody else that wasn't prepared, then it might be a bit of a burden and not prepared for it, sort of thing. So it comes down to the client and what the client is looking for.
What are the most common problems that we see in a home inspection? Usually the problems that we find stem from an overall lack of maintenance, either because people didn't know to maintain certain areas or they just didn't care. It's really common to find filters inside of a furnace that have not been changed out and realistically should be, or they've been put in backwards, in which case they're still not filtering. It's also really common to find smoke detectors that have expired. Some have expired, decades ago, others just recently, but a lot of people don't know that their smoke detectors have expired, and so they would never think to look up and then subsequently change them out. Siliconing around counters, sinks, tubs, showers, that sort of thing, that's an ongoing maintenance item that people just are not aware of to deal with. And so then when we come in and we start seeing possibly leaking around a bathtub or a shower, there's chirping because a smoke detector is expired. Those are really simple things that could have been handled along the way, but have then possibly created bigger problems.
Can home inspectors detect mold? The thing with doing mold inspections and stuff like that, you do have to be specially trained for that. So yes, they can, but they have to have the proper courses, insurance, and tooling to be able to do that. So yes, they can.
Can a home inspector test for asbestos? Yes, they can, but in all reality, they need to have taken the proper courses to be able to test for asbestos. It's not that they can just come in and do it. They also have to be insured for that testing. And they have to have taken the proper courses prior to doing it. So we can test for asbestos, we just have to take the necessary steps and precautions before we do start testing for it. What is Poly B? Poly B stands for polybutylene, and it was a material that was used for water lines starting back in the mid-70s. What they found was that the minerals in the water was reacting with the components of this product, and it would cause a breakdown of the water lines in general, and pinholes started to develop, and so then the plumbing lines would develop these little tiny pinhole leaks, and often they would be happening kind of behind the scenes, not out where it was readily visible and easy to fix, but behind walls and underneath flooring and up in ceilings. So that's where the concern came from. When was Poly B used in Alberta? Back in the mid-1970s is when Poly B was introduced into the market. And so homes that were built starting roughly in the mid-70s, right up until about the mid-90s, is when we know that there is the possibility that we will find Poly B when we look under sinks, and especially down in the mechanical room where plumbing lines are more evident.
Are house foundation cracks normal? Yes, they are. As cement dries, it'll actually shrink, which then causes cracking. Being here in Alberta as well and having basically a 70-degree different from cold to warm, that also wreaks havoc. Cement is solid, it doesn't like to move, and there is settling as a home is, a newer home, and over the next 2 to 5 years it will settle to some degree. So having a little bit of movement will put some stress on it, which will create cracks to some degree.
Why do we use drones instead of ladders? The biggest reason, it's a fun toy and clients love it. But in all honesty, it's for safety reasons. There's a lot more potential for injury or damage to the roof by climbing up onto it and walking the roof. There's weak spots, slippery spots, after a rainstorm. a lot of potential for an inspector to injure themselves. A drone allows us to get a bird's eye view literally. We can zoom right in on the roof as a whole. We can zoom in on any trouble areas. It gives us some really, really great quality photos to share with the clients. And in all honesty, clients love the fact when they drive up and see a drone flying over the house that they're looking to buy. They think, wow, this is fantastic. These guys are great. We like them already. So it just kind of wows the clients, wows the realtors, but it actually helps us to do our job with a lot more safety.
What does aluminum wiring look like, and is it dangerous? Throughout the house, you might have a rough time looking at or seeing if it is aluminum wiring. The best way to find out is to basically pull off fixture covers, or even to open up an electrical panel and just take a look inside. It's a gray color, and can it be dangerous? It can be. If it's not properly installed, there's usually certain outlets that have got to be done to it or connected with it, or breakers, and there has to be a paste, a special paste. Aluminum has a chemical reaction over time. It doesn't like other metals for the most part, and so when it does, it is connected to other metals. It does have a chemical reaction which can create heat, which then, of course, as we know, can create fires or other problems. So it can be dangerous. How much attic insulation do you need? Great question. That all depends. That seems to be the main answer for a lot of things. It depends on the type of insulation you have. There's different types of insulation out there. So once again, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what you're needing because one would have to see what you have for insulation and then go from there.